as you can tell, new surroundings, new place. I made it to Nampula just around 10:30 p.m. So my flight was also late by maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. As much as I love to travel, there is nothing, and I want to repeat this, there is nothing I detest as much as arriving in a place that I do not know well at night, and it has no Uber or Yango or any sort of ride-hailing apps. Because that means you need to prepare yourself after whatever transportation you took to get there, mentally, physically, everything, to fight a taxi driver to get a price that you know is the right price. And so when you arrive, it's dark, you know the taxi drivers are going to make all sorts of excuses, but you just need to stand your ground and fight for yourself. And it literally feels like whenever you get out of a taxi in these kind of situations, it feels like you've just been in a battle. You win some, you lose some, and some are just a draw, and you leave the cab like screaming at the driver. So it's one of those nights, but we're gonna hit the ground running tomorrow morning. With that, have a good night, everyone. Take care. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Nonstop Nikhil. This morning, I woke up to more rain here in Nampula, and some of the rain was leaking into the tent I was staying in. So I had to get that cleaned, and then took a shower, and it's about 7 a.m. and I'm trying to get started on my day trip to llha de Moçambique. That was actually one of the prime reasons why I came here to Mozambique. It's one of the prime historical sites dating back to colonial era, and then dating back to even when Vasco da Gama was trying to find his way to India and thus was circling around the continent of Africa. So I'm going to try to make it there. I'm back to taking the llha system, so I'm sitting here waiting for the vehicle to be full before we can get going. And even after that, I have no idea how long it's going to take before we actually get there. Again, Google Maps says about 2.5 hours, but I'm not holding reality to Google Maps at all. I've learned my lesson. So another thing to consider when you take these llha's or road transportation in Mozambique is that you usually end up being at the mercy of the drivers and their system and their network of drivers. And so what just happened is I was sitting in the really nice, very, very fast moving minivan, and then it looks like that minivan wasn't even going to llha in the first place, but was going to fork off to another place called Nampula on the port just north of llha de Moçambique. So they just was like, you're going to get down, and they dumped me in this Toyota pickup. It was like, this vehicle is going to llha, so you're going to be their responsibility now. So now I'm in the pickup truck. Looks like just 2-3 people can sit up here, and then there's a bunch of other people sitting in the trunk. But yeah, this vehicle is moving much, much slower than the other one, so I was a bit bummed when I got dumped in here. I figured I could be in llha maybe in 30 minutes, but with this one it's going to take definitely more than an hour at how slow we're going. I think I can probably just even walk alongside the vehicle and maybe even get there at the same time. I was just about to compliment the other driver and the vehicle. The vehicle is so nice, it's nice and cool, they drive really quickly, they don't stop a lot. And then 5 minutes later, they dumped me in this pickup. Guy does not at all seem to care how long it will take to actually reach the destination, because it's all about picking up and dropping off more passengers to make more money. There is just no information on how to navigate this public transport system here in Mozambique, and that's just because it changes so much and it's just up to the whims of the drivers and what they want. You step into one vehicle like I did this morning, and they say it'll take you to llha. You ask whether it will go directly to llha, they say yes, but then halfway through they get a bunch of people who want to go elsewhere. It's more profitable for them to go elsewhere, so they dump you with someone else, and then take all these other passengers with them instead. And what are you going to do in that moment? I don't know why I even bother continuing to ask about time here. I think this is just one culture or one country, one system in which time is just not a concept. So even if you keep asking, how much time does it take to get here? How much time are we going to be waiting here? You never get a direct answer. Or if you do, it turns out being completely off. So somebody says you're going to get there at like 11 a.m. No, you're going to get there at like 3 or 4 p.m. maybe. If they say you're going to wait for like 5 or 10 minutes, you might be waiting for like an hour. It really just doesn't mean anything. It's just words. It's just plain words that have no meaning. Like, you can just forget that part of your vocabulary when you're here. I keep asking the driver why we're even stopped here, and he can't even tell me why we're stopped here. So And then I look behind me and it's still full of people, so I don't even know why we're waiting, why we're not moving. But there seems to be no option. And then he says I can get another vehicle that can take me just directly, but then I have to pay them as well. So I don't know what he's getting paid for. He's really getting paid for nothing except sitting here and wasting my time. On the border of recommending you all, if you're coming to Mozambique without your own private transportation, just don't come. Either plan on taking a flight everywhere, which is not worth it, or just don't come to this country. We've literally just spent the past 45 minutes driving around in circles around this little traffic junction. I think he's just hoping that new people keep showing up who might want to get in this car, which already is massively packed, and that would mean more money for him on his trip. But the thing is, I just want to get to where I'm going, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen. When you get into a vehicle here in Mozambique, the assumption shouldn't be that you will get there at any reasonable time. They're just mean that you will get there eventually. I came into today thinking that I would be able to go and then visit llha and then also come back to Nampula the same day, which is totally doable. Everyone thinks it's doable except I came to meet this guy. Now we're at another junction in which one side of the road goes to where I need to go to llha, to island of Mozambique, and then the other takes a turn to Shokashmar. And now this guy is telling me that he's going to go to Shokashmar. Just changing his mind all of a sudden, probably because more people got on there trying to head that direction than trying to head my direction. So yeah, this is exactly what can happen. I hope your day is going better than mine so far. I haven't had any caffeine, I haven't had anything to eat. I've just been tossed around these vehicles. I've been yelling at this guy in Portuguese as much as I can. And yeah, that's been my life so far. I think I can safely say that here in Mozambique, there is no hierarchy of needs. There are just no needs. There's just also no certainty that you'll even get from point A to point B. That's not even a need. You might go point A to point C, point D to E to B, perhaps. It's more of that sort of thing. So I can't even say that there are needs. Comfort is definitely not a need. Getting from point A to point B isn't a guarantee either. And yeah, even, I don't know, same day arrival isn't even something you can expect. So yes, this is the reality. This is the reality of public transportation and why so many people have been telling me not to do the whole trip overland. I just can't imagine if I had done the Beira to Nampula overland, what that would have been like. It could have taken 24, 48 hours, or just not reach at all if the car breaks down. So that's that. I have only a couple days left here in Mozambique, so I've been trying to make the most of it. But with this transportation system, with this 2.5 hour drive from Nampula to llha de Mozambique, between one of the largest cities in Mozambique to one of the largest tourist destinations in the country, taking this long and involving this many changes and just flying on the whims of the drivers, you really can't help but imagine why a lot of people don't come to visit this country. Or I guess this is the way to do it. No me rápido. Yo tengo mi casqueta. Finally making it to llha de Mozambique. We're crossing this little channel here of the Indian Ocean. It's gorgeous. I mean, even the beach behind me on the mainland is pretty gorgeous. Just wait until we get into the water. Honestly, seeing this blue water makes the whole experience that I just endured of trying to get here totally worth it. like I only have a total of 2 hours to actually check out this island, given how long it took for me to actually get here, because the last buses heading back to Nampula are going to end leaving at about 3 p.m. and it's almost 1 p.m. right now. But it seems like a nice place. I just need to plan while I'm eating. I just ask for what's the fastest thing that I can get to order and plan the stops that I want to hit up, be most efficient, see those spots, and then grab the next bus heading back to Nampula. But I'm going to take some time here while I'm waiting for my food to give you some of the background of this destination so I can save some time while actually out walking around. But the island of Mozambique, or llha de Moçambique, in many ways reflects the identity of the country. I mean, take it literally from the name Mozambique itself. The name Mozambique for the country came from the name Mozambique for this island. And the name Mozambique itself originated from the ruling sultan who ruled over this island when the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama first came around this area. And his name was Ali Musa Mbaiki. And that's how you get the name Arabized into Musa Bimbik, which then turns into Mozambique. And the good thing is that the island is not that big. I figured that the fort is on the north side next to one of the cathedrals, and they're all the way on the northern tip of the island. I figured they might be a little far for me to catch today, but Google Maps says it's only an 8-minute walk, so I think I can make it all the way to the northern tip, then circle around, see the other sites before making it back to the south, where I can cross the bridge again and then catch my bus back to Nampula. Trust me, I'm not able to count the number of people who in South Africa and here in Mozambique have told me that I must visit llha de Moçambique or Mozambique Island because of how beautiful the Portuguese architecture is. I'm not going to also go into my whole rant about why we consider colonial architecture to be charming. If you want to see that, go back to my Abidjan Grand Bassam video. Right here, I'm at the fort of Saint Sebastian on the island of Mozambique. And this was a part of the second step that the Portuguese had to take in order to cement their presence here on the island and off the coast of modern day Mozambique, the country. And so, as you could tell, this would be used for naval purposes, it would be used for defense purposes, because the Portuguese weren't the only powers trying to capture the strategic coast here on the east coast of Africa. It was also the Dutch, and then later on there would be other powers, because you'd have to pass through this coast of Africa in order to get to India. And those who controlled, just as we were in South Africa, those who controlled the southern tip of Africa and along this coast also controlled access to some of the most expensive goods in the world at that time in the 16th century, and those were gold, human labor in the form of slaves, and then spices from India. So I think it might be my terrible Portuguese. It sounds like I'm saying kind of like the right words, but just not in the Portuguese way. So everybody here so far has been asking me if I'm either Spanish or Italian, because I have the right notion of what the word should sound like, but it's just coming out in a completely different pronunciation or slightly different way or form than it would appear in Portuguese. Inside this fort, which I'm not visiting for time purposes, sits the chapel of Our Lady of Beluarte. And some say that with its construction in the early 1500s, I believe in the 1520s, it might be the earliest European construction in the southern hemisphere. And I want to underscore one thing. When the Europeans, and specifically the Portuguese in this case, came here in the 1500s, they didn't just come to wild, savage lands as much of the colonial literature portrays it. They came to a vibrant, cosmopolitan, multi-ethnic society here. There was already a blossoming trade taking place here between the Swahili coast just north of here, between the local peoples, between the peoples of the Arab Peninsula further north in Oman and Yemen, and into the Indian subcontinent, along with the Indian subcontinent being used as a trade hub with the Malays, with Southeast Asia, Java, current day Indonesia and Malaysia. It just informs you about how global of a society already existed before the Europeans decided not only to exert their influence, but also to claim and capture territory for their own crowns. This beach is exactly where the Portuguese explorer, as they term him, Vasco da Gama, made landfall on the African continent in 1498 on his way to look for a new trade route to India. And if you think about it, why were the Europeans so obsessed with India? They were obsessed with finding a way to India, and therefore came across the coast of Africa, they came across North America, they came across so many new territories for them, because finding a new trade route to India meant access to the wealth and riches of the Indian subcontinent without having to pass through areas largely controlled by another powerful force of traders, and those were the Muslims. Is that what the Europeans found when they came to the East African coast and entered into the already existing Indian Ocean trade was that they found that they needed to really undermine two long existing communities of traders in this region in order to really make any impact and gain any insight into trade advantages in this part of the world. And predictably, those two communities were the Hindus and second, the Muslims. So especially the Portuguese were able to pick up from the Hindus and Muslims that co-religionists in these areas means co-traders in this region. And so they really started spreading their Catholic beliefs as a form of cementing trade relations in parts of the world which were coveted for their natural resources or strategic importance. But let's get back to the story of Ilha de Moçambique, or Mozambique Island. With the opening of the Suez Canal, which allowed for vessels and passengers to travel from Europe to the Middle East and into Asia on a much shorter route than circling around the entire continent of Africa, Mozambique Island and Mozambique as an area itself lost its whole claim to fame, or raison d'être. Mozambique Island lost its political claim to fame, with the capital moving to Maputo on the mainland, and it lost its economic claim to fame, with much of the port business being shifted to the modern day port city of Nampula, which is just not too far from here. But remnants of Ilha de Mozambique's importance remain until today. If it's not the trade, you still have the remnants of the Hospital of Mozambique behind me. The Hospital of Mozambique was, for much of its use and for much of its existence, one of the largest in sub-Saharan Africa. And during and after the Mozambican Civil War, it was painted white in memory of all those who had died during that period. Okay, I think I've hit most of the big sites that I was planning on hitting on my checklist that I made in the restaurant. So just because I have absolutely now no standards for the public transport here, even if they say the last bus will probably leave at 3 p.m., I know there's no one source of truth for any of this information. It just depends on what driver is there today. So I think I'm just going to find somewhere to get some water and some refreshments. And then I'm just going to see if I can hail a moto taxi ASAP and get back to wherever I can find a bus to Nampula. I'm pretty sure this looks very, very familiar to you now. I'm back in another shoppa. I don't know if I'm gonna love it or hate my life again. But let's start everything optimistically. You know, I can still go with the flow. Found a bus easily that was going to Nampula. It's being filled up with people right now. I'm in the same front seat like I usually am. And I clarified, as I usually do, whether we're going directly to Nampula. I said I got a yes. I asked with sin parar. I got a yes. They're promising me a direct bus ride to Nampula with no stops. But again, that has never held true so far. So maybe they'll surprise me. I'll try to be optimistic, but they probably won't. Either way, at least I have transportation to get out of here. Transportation that's somewhat promising me to get me home to where my stuff is, to where I have a bed to sleep on tonight. And that's all I can really expect and hope for. So with that, I will leave you with some good memories from llha de Mozambique. So I've currently been on this vehicle for about an hour now, and I think I'm farther away than when I last talked to you. I'm back on Mozambique Island because they couldn't find any fuel back on the mainland on our way out from the town on the mainland there. So just to illustrate how quickly your optimism can be dashed when we're talking about public transport here, and also to illustrate just like the sheer lack of foresight, mismanagement, lack of organization, lack of respect for people's time. And I think I might be the only one who like really cares. That's the thing. Because we were sitting there for like at least more than an hour. I mean, at least since I was there. They waited for all the passengers to be present, everything to be loaded, all the people to be boarded. They found exactly the amount of people that they want so that they can actually depart. And then they realize that they're out of fuel and that all the gas stations near them don't have fuel. And so we need to go circle around town a couple times and now go all the way back to Mozambique Island to fill up and then head back out. So it's just like you could have done all of that before. Like that's just like what people typically do. Do it all on your own time. Don't do it on your passengers' time. We still haven't left this general area yet. They keep like turning back around and then trying to pick up other people, and now these people have like a bunch of random stuff with them. I don't know, grass or like tree branches or something. I don't know. So now they have to like load their stuff. Like I don't even know what's happening. But at this pace, it's gonna take literally forever to get to Nampula. Every time you like go like 2 steps forward, it's like 1 step backward again, and then take 2 steps forward again and 1 step backward again. There's just like no capacity. Like we're at capacity, we need to go now. That's just not a concept yet. If you can pick someone up and all of their tree branches, you do so. I just checked the map right now. We're about 130 kilometers away from my place that I'm staying at in Nampula. Just take a guess. You don't even have to pause the video. Just take a guess at how long you think it would take for me to get from where I am right now 136 kilometers back home. It's 4:45 right now. Today is December 23rd and I'm nearing the end of my mission to travel up the coast of Mozambique, south to north, using public transportation, and I only have one leg left, except for the fact that I also cheated and took a flight in between a large chunk of the route between Beira and Nampula. But even with that, it's been a lot. It's been a journey. It's been tough. And I'm not one to sugarcoat things. I promise you, when I'm telling you that some places feel extremely safe, are wonderful to travel in, you should have no care or concern going there, I'm being honest with you. However, I'm also going to be honest with you and tell you when you shouldn't tackle some places unless you're willing to put up with a lot. And I've been putting up with a lot the past week here in Mozambique. But you only realize what you're addicted to when you go without it. And yesterday, I did all of that yesterday from like 7 a.m. until like 10 p.m. All of that madness, all of that going around in circles, all of that fighting with people just to get from point A to point B. I did that all with no coffee and resulted in a low-level headache that by 10 p.m. when the driver was blasting music and we were stuck in traffic trying to get back into Nampula, I just had a headache. So since Google Maps says it's going to be taking at least 5 hours for me to get to Pemba, if I can even get there at all, and then we all know by now it's going to take at least double that time if I don't start my day right, at least with whatever instant coffee and water mixture I can find at the moment. I'm not setting myself up for success. So with that, I think I'm going to take it easy today. I'm not going to vlog unless there's something really crazy happening. If all goes well, the next scene you'll be seeing is me at the airport in Pemba tomorrow, December 24th. With that, take a nice break, everyone. Breathe. Read up on everything I've been talking about, and I'll get back to you tomorrow.